All right, so thank you, Sanjay. Ted and Millie from the University of Louisville, I know that you've all put a lot of work behind this, and it's very much appreciated. And also from the Microsoft side, Tim, Trupin, Paul, of course, and Tiana, we thank you for taking an interest into what we see as a really important activity, an activity that can enhance research through leveraging of resources, reproducibility of data finding, and most of all, give us the ability to address research questions. So here I'm just starting just to give you a little bit of kind of this broad view. And what you're seeing here on the screen is the NIH strategic plan for data science. These are the 5 overarching goals. And I hope that what you'll see through this presentation today is that we do touch on each of these goals and ways to achieve these goals. So Superfund research program, folks, I know you've seen this a time or two before. And here the point to show you this is to also share with our Microsoft colleagues our mandates for the Superfund program. And this is really to fund research that typically for NIH, being a part of the NIH is part of the biomedical science, but as part of Superfund, we also support environmental science and engineering projects. And here you get an idea. Sorry?
Nothing.
This just gives you an idea of, this is a unique challenge to us being part of Superfund, where we also support environmental science and engineering. That we also are looking for data science support that also supports this, because it's such an important part of what our program is mandated to do. With this, what you see on the right is just an idea of the kinds of science that we're supported. And I hope that what you see is it's pretty diverse. And what you're also seeing is that I am focusing on the P42 center grants here. And this is something I'll take you through some of the data science and management activities that we're involved with that are really focusing with the P42s in mind. So you just saw the diversity of science that the P42 grants are tasked with. That is biomedical research projects, as well as environmental science and engineering projects. And those are all coming together to support a center's research goals. Here, I also hope that you can see that the centers are highly integrated, and they're highly integrated so that we're enhancing this integration so that, and to further enhance this, we wanted to do this at the level of data integration. You can see that structurally they're already integrated, and I'm just going to take you through a few of those activities. So the next slide is just some of the activities that we've been involved with that are focusing on data science with a particular emphasis on fostering data sharing. This is just an overview graphic, and you'll see this throughout the presentation, and that's just meant to orient you. So hopefully that helps you see what's coming next. What you're seeing here is just to give you an idea of a timeline. You can see that way back in 2015, we've already been thinking a lot about data science and integration especially, and this is something that we formalized in our SRP strategic plan. As you move from left to right to these arrows, you're going to see that our approaches to data science, sharing and integration have gotten a lot more rigorous. And this is all towards moving towards FAIR. And I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about this. It's findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And why do we want to do this? We want to make sure that the data coming out of the program is reproducible. We want to leverage resources to the extent that we can. We also, for research, we want to make sure that we can get some new insights into complex problems. You just saw that first slide where you look at the mandates, and they are complex problems. Not only are we considering the biomedical aspects of exposure and how it leads to a health effect, but we're also looking at the exposures themselves and how can we look at actually reducing exposures in the environment so people aren't exposed in the first place. Also, we want to look at using data science as a way to answer new questions that before you couldn't answer on your own. So how can we bring data together so that we can start to see connections that we wouldn't otherwise see? And of course, accelerate the pace of research. So the first thing I want to share, activity I want to share with you, it's just a small step, but we think it's an important one. And this one is tackling the F&A and FAIR. And this is posting data sets. We used our website. We have a website. I hope that you all have been on it. And for those who haven't, I encourage you to especially take a look at the data sharing pages. Here, what we're showing you is just some of the data resources. What we like to do is highlight data resources we think might be valuable to our grantees as well as Superfund stakeholders. And also what we've done is we've pulled publicly available data sets from research that's supported by Superfund, and we're posting them on the website. And the reason why we're doing that is we want to take it out of the repository, and we want to put some context into how the data were generated. So here you can see, I'm just showing you an example from Boston University, and you can see the data sets that are associated with a particular project. So in this case, we hope that we're taking it out of the repository, giving some context to the data set that normally would sort of be buried in with everything else. Key point to make here is that we're pointing to repositories. We don't have a repository. As many of you well know, these kinds of things are very costly and they eat into research dollars. We're just simply pointing to where you would find these data sets. So next, I just want to tell you about these newly required cores that we have for the P42 centers. And these are called the Data Management and Analysis cores, or the Dmax. And I just went through earlier to tell you about the Diversity, Science, and P42 grants. And what we wanted to do with the Dmax is we wanted to make that, that integration with a center that was integrated already with research projects that were looking at a common research theme, as well as the cores that supported that. And we wanted that integration to be even deeper through looking at sharing data across the center. So this is why the Dmax were made a required part of the P42 centers. So I just want to take you a little bit through, what is the Dmax and what are they tasked with? And so here on the bullets on the left side is what you're seeing that the Dmax are tasked with. And those are things like supporting management and integration within the center, really trying to think of ways that we're establishing, coordinating, and monitoring processes for data analysis, supporting quality assurance and quality of data. Nobody wants to be using somebody else's data that isn't quality data. Also, which is really important, we want, before data are generated, we want each of the centers to be working really closely with the data management and analysis cores. So they're thinking about how they might start collecting the data at the beginning and how you have the potential to integrate it sort of as the research findings are being found, and now the centers are more poised to be able to integrate that data. So it's really subject matter experts, the project leads for the research projects working really closely with data management and analysis core leads. Also with the Dmax, one important aspect of them is to develop a data management plan, which sounds really dry, but it's really important to think about how data are collected, managed, and analyzed throughout the lifetime of the grant and beyond. Next, I want to take you through some data supplement activity that we initiated in 2019, so just last year. I just talked to you about the Dmax, and they were really heavy on making sure that we're thinking about how data is managed and analyzed so that the centers are better poised to be able to integrate data downstream as those research findings are being generated. The data supplements, we're really looking at how can we best support integration of data? How can we make it more usable? And this is where I just want to spend some time just delving down into a couple details with this. But first, just kind of looking at what we had, what was our rationale going into these data supplements. So we knew that we had some challenges, and we knew that we had some advantages. So first, starting with the advantages, I hope I've convinced you that the P42 centers are very highly integrated already. Researchers are used to working with each other, already very transdisciplinary in nature. And each of the centers have common research goals. So we felt like that was a heck of a foundation to start looking at how can we start integrating data. Of course, the challenge is not every center had a data science expert. We also knew getting into the nitty-gritty that it was really, there's challenges in standardizing data because you have to standardize it in order to start integrating it. And so things like ontologies and standardized vocabularies and looking at semantic reasoning are things that are going to come into play, as well as availability of repositories. And of course, something I touched on earlier when I talked about us pointing to where data are stored is the cost. And so this is, the goals of the data supplements were really to enhance this integration and reuse of Superfund research program data. We wanted to advance the science. We also wanted to get an opportunity to start to bring in data science expertise into the centers. So now the centers are sort of thinking about how data can be potentially, what you have to do with the data in order to be able to integrate the data. And of course, these supplement activities are something that can be used to help guide NIEHS program staff, who I failed to mention at the beginning. So I get to present all this on behalf of a wonderful team of SRP staff, and that is Bill Sook, who hopefully you'll hear from later. He had some connection problems earlier, but I hope that he'll be able to give some remarks. Daniel Carlin and Heather Henry are my fellow program officers, as well as Brittany Trottier, who is our program analyst and also oversees our community engagement activities. So diverse science, I throw this up just to kind of drive home the point that we're pretty transdisciplinary. This is just a map of publications that we pulled. This is a bit old, so I apologize, but this is just publications that were generated by grantees who are funded by the Superfund research program from 2008 to 2012. And what I want you to see is the diverse science. So we also, when I talk about diverse science and transdisciplinary, we knew that that was both a strength and a challenge for these data integration supplements, as well as for our Dmax and any activities we have in data integration for Superfund. So back to the data supplements. And so these really were looking to address the I and the R affairs. So here we're looking at addressing integration and reuse. And I'm just going to box that to drive home that point. Another reality we want to, this is no news to anyone. This is the reality of where a particular domain of research might be at in terms of being ready to integrate data. We knew that in some cases, a lot of the omics technologies, they've been around, standards have been developed, so they're a little bit more poised to be able to start thinking about integrating data. But then at the other end, sort of at this left end of the arrow, you also have instances where it would be great to start to interop and to make data, combine data so that they're interoperable, so that now you have a more robust data set and a more comprehensive picture of what's going on. But in order to do that, you have to step back and make sure you have the standards in place. So we did know that that was another reality that we had to face. So these use cases, data supplements, we call them external use cases, and we call them use cases because what we wanted with these is we wanted our grantees to address a real-world science-driven question, to understand what the barriers were between bringing together data sets. We know that data curation is costly, so what kinds of things could they learn from bringing together data sets based on trying to answer a research question that would help inform, okay, what kind of metadata is needed? What's the minimum amount of metadata, rather than spending a lot of time when really you don't need to have as much curation or as much metadata. We also, with these use cases, we wanted to encourage collaboration within our program. And so these use cases involved collaborations with another P42 center. And the nice thing about that is now you've got another P42 center who might just have enough nuances collecting data that it really helps inform this real life situation of integrating data and what the challenges and barriers might be to do this. Another point to make with these external use cases, which were supported by data supplements, is we wanted these to be something that they are helping inform best practices moving forward. So whatever is learned from these supplements or these use cases will help SRP researchers, staff, and hopefully other researchers to learn more about what's needed to integrate data so that we can reuse it for the purposes of advancing research. This is a listing of the external use cases that we received. We received a total of 19, and what you're seeing on the left of this table is just the titles. And if you have a quick look, you're going to see, and I don't expect you to be able to read them all, but you're going to see that they are quite diverse in their research questions they're asking, as well as diverse in the kinds of data that they are addressing and having to address the barriers for integration. And on the right, what you're seeing is that there was some really, and there is really robust collaboration among the P42 centers, as well as some of the individual research projects. I'm just pointing out a few of these, and this is no way to point out these are any better than any of the other ones. They're all great projects that were proposed. These are just ones that I just wanted to highlight for a couple of reasons, just to say, you know, I started off saying in some cases we were at the left side of integration where there was still some work to do before we could even start integrating data, because we had to develop standards. So we had a use case to start to look at that. So here we're looking at, you know, how can we better curate and address data that's coming from non-targeted high-resolution mass spectrometry, so that we could start to use that, and other researchers can be better poised to be able to use that to harmonize, to answer research questions. We also had a couple of use cases that we're looking at. Okay, so how can we start thinking about standardizing across population data? We understand that there's, you know, PII that has to be addressed, but even not looking at the data itself and how it's collected, how can we look at ways that we can better harmonize this? We also had instances where we were looking at comparing image data. So how can we develop standards to help facilitate downstream sharing of image data so that people can leverage findings that were already there to augment what they are proposing or they are trying to advance a research question. So these are ongoing. We just ask you to stay tuned. We will be sharing these recommendations that come out from these use cases. So just wrapping up here, just to say, this was all to address FAIR. We're trying to look at how Superfund research program data can be used can be shared for the purpose of reproducibility, which makes data findings and research findings even more powerful and robust, to make sure that others can reproduce them. Make sure we're leveraging resources. If somebody's already conducted a study, how can we make sure that data that's come out of that study is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable for other researchers? Of course, I've told you before, we're looking into new insights for complex problems. We want to be able to answer these research questions, and the way to do that is if you're starting to bring together data from diverse sources that all contribute to the problems that we see at Superfund, that face us all with Superfund, which spans biomedical to environmental science and engineering. Integrating those data sets gives us more of a complete picture. So now we can start to look at things, maybe see connections we hadn't seen before because we haven't had all the pieces to see it. I've told you a little bit about some of the strategies that we're trying to do to accomplish that. You've heard about the website, you've heard about use cases, you've heard about our Dmax. I hadn't had a chance to tell you, but just to let you know, we are working with other NIEHS activities, and that's the HERE program, where it's the Human Health and Exposure Analysis resource. So we're working to make sure that their data analytics and harmonization activities are aligned with what Superfund's doing. And we're also working with some of our other federal partners. And this is all and on the right here are just some of the approaches and activities that our researchers are looking toward to help foster interoperability and data reuse. And that includes improving metadata so that researchers know what data they're looking at and how to best use it, looking at standardizing across platforms, looking at using things like automated laboratory management systems, dashboards. That's an important point, because a lot of what we also have to recognize is some of the researchers and even some of the trainees are not necessarily experts in data science, but how can we bring together that expertise within a program so that now they can learn more about data science, but also make that accessible. So create these dashboards so that people who are maybe not as savvy with data science can still take advantage of the data science activities. And with that, I probably should end. I think I went a wee bit over, but I thank you very much for your time.